Hello, hello. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Beautiful. We can.
Beautiful.
Well, we got a few of us together, and we might have a few more hop on, but right now it's down to kind of our core group. But I hope that's all right.
That works great. It's good to see everybody, particularly those who I can actually see.
Yeah, a lot of us are darkened circles here. We're a little bit camera shy.
That's all right. I get it. I would be too if I had the option.
Well, I like it. How you doing today?
Man, I am good. It was actually a beautiful day today here where I'm at, and this time of year we don't get too many of those, so that's pretty good.
Where are you, Edwin?
So right now I'm sitting in Columbus, Ohio. Yeah, I have a home here in Ohio, and I have one in New Mexico because the company is headquartered in New Mexico, hence why I'm down there. And I'm also here because the business is headquartered in New Mexico. My kids are headquartered in Ohio. So that's hence the I call it bi-coastal, but it's not that exciting. It's just,
A leap to the desert and leap to the other, huh?
You got it.
Well, the desert right now has been a little bit moist. It's been pretty rainy lately.
Oh, really? Now, is that pretty common down there, or is that uncommon?
Yeah, normally we have that whole monsoon season same time as maybe you're used to, but for some reason this year it's been a little bit worse. I drowned my car a few weeks ago, so like I'm pretty confident it's been worse than normal.
Oh.
Yeah, it doesn't swim very well.
Well, you need that new Tesla Cybertruck that they're making down there in Texas. That'll save you.
I mean, I'm not against it.
Yeah.
But well, we'll see who we got here right now. I figure we won't try to drag you out a whole lot longer than we need to. Figured we'd bring you on and see if you could tell us a little bit about this whole retirement account thing and what it means to us.
Yeah, absolutely. So you just let me know when you want me to start.
If you don't mind, Edwin, can you give us a really quick intro as to who you are, your company, a little bit of your experience, just a little background, so everybody has a better understanding before you get started?
Yeah, so my name is Edwin Kelly. I am CEO and founder of Specialized Trust Company. Specialized Trust is a self-directed IRA custodian and 401k as well. And so we're going to talk more about this, but just as a quick intro, right? A self-directed retirement account is one that allows you to invest in anything that you choose as long as the government allows it. So it removes all the handcuffs, all the restrictions that most banks and brokerages put on folks, and actually gives the control and the decision-making back to you, the client. I've been doing this for 23 plus years. My marketing team yells at me about that every year because they say that every year you have experience in something, the more credibility you have. Well, about 6 years ago, I found myself surprisingly single. And I said, I'm not aging myself any more than I have to. So it's 23 plus years. That number's never changing. 10 years from now, I'll have 23 plus years experience in this business. It's just not moving. But I've been in it a long time. I've worked with various companies before starting my own in this space. I actually made my very first investment, began investing when I was in middle school, invested through high school, continued through college. Actually, when I was a broke college kid at Ohio State University, I opened up my very first retirement account. And I've just been doing this stuff like basically my whole life. And I guess I was fortunate in that I found something that I loved and that I developed skills in. I can't say I was good at it in the beginning, but it's like anything, you learn it. And so I didn't know a lot in the beginning, and I wasn't very good at stuff in the beginning, but I've learned a few things that have made a lot of difference for me and a lot of our clients.
Love it.
Nice. I love it. Thank you.
Yes.
Jacob, you want to kind of take over? Because I think you have a better blueprint of what you want him to go over.
Yeah, we were talking about it a little bit in the background. And I think basically the long and short of it is we've brought Edwin here to talk with us a little bit on retirement accounts and ways that you can use them to go ahead and invest. But something that's probably worth noting too is just seeing if anybody has retirement accounts and maybe why they're beneficial. And then also what might be worth talking about is what you might want that retirement account to look like as far as size or income in order to be able to retire at the end there. And what sort of returns that you're probably getting if you're doing self-directed, depending what you're going after, and what sort of returns you might be looking going the traditional route. So think, why do we have them? Do we have them? How big should they be? And what sort of returns are we looking normally versus what might we be able to get through self-directed? And anything else that might be useful for entry level into the IRA space.
Okay. I've got a slide deck that actually would hit all those points. If you want me to
Perfect.
share that, I can kind of walk through that.
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
Okay, I will, let's see here. Let's see if it'll, oh, okay, you gotta, yeah, enable it.
I should probably log on this from my computer if it'll cooperate too while you're doing that.
Well, I need, it says host disabled participant screen sharing. So
Denise, that's you.
Yeah, let me.
oh man, who's got the bat phone? That's what I want.
Ooh, who we got in here? We're growing.
I don't think I can change those options right now.
I wonder if there's a way.
Hold on, I can. I think I might have just found it.
Yeah, there's usually a way where you can
Okay, I changed it. Let's see if it.
all right, let's see here if this works.
There you go.
Can you see that?
Yes.
Yes, we
Look
can.
at that. Isn't it wonderful when technology works?
Oh, that's beautiful. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and go rogue on my actual computer too. All right, perfect. Now we're back up. All righty, test 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you great.
Beautiful. All right. Well, I think we'll probably have a couple people trickle in, but we can get rolling whenever you're ready, sir.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and just jump into this. And the way that I do this, particularly for evening sessions like this, if anyone has any questions, I can't see the questions, but Jacob, you guys can see the questions. So feel free to chime in, make comments, ask questions. I'm always very casual about this kind of thing. And there's usually a lot of questions around it. In fact, one of the tricky things with this subject is, and this is one of the things that I've learned, is that people say, well, I have questions, I just don't know what to ask. So my goal is to answer probably the most common questions you'd have if this is brand new to you. And so that's what I'll share with you tonight. So, I'll tell you this, I didn't start out, I didn't like have a love affair with retirement accounts. That's not how this came about. What happened was, as I had goals, specifically financial goals in life, I learned about different things that would help me along the way. And that's kind of how I discovered this. But so this is not about an IRA. It's not about a solo K or any type of an account, really. What it's really about is what you see there at the bottom of your screen: how to rescue your retirement, build a real estate empire, and rewrite your family legacy. Because that's what I really wanted to accomplish. And what I found was a very useful vehicle in the self-directed IRA that helps make all of that a lot easier, it can make it happen faster. And so that's what I get excited about. And that's why I love this stuff. So just to kind of set expectations, I'm not going to give you any tax advice, legal advice, investment advice, or any advice of any kind. But what I will do is give you some great information that when you implement it, has the ability to absolutely change your financial life. So with that, I'm going to cover a few of the common questions, right? And you're going to see how all this comes together. So the first question is, what is a self-directed IRA, right? What is a self-directed IRA to begin with? Why self-direct your IRA? So once you know what it is, why would you want one, or why would you want to consider maybe this as something for you? This is another question that comes up from folks. What makes a self-directed IRA a self-directed IRA? In other words, is this really legal? You're telling me I could buy real estate in this thing, or I could do all these kinds of things that banks and brokerages say I can't do. How do I know that's really legal, right? So that's a question that comes up. And how do you self-direct your IRA? So I'll actually share with you two client stories, success stories, case studies, if you will, at the end. So that's how I always like to end things off. So you can actually, I'll show you what this is, and then I'll show you how it plays out in real life. And oh, by the way, yeah, questions at the end, along the way, however you guys want to do it. So what is a self-directed IRA? Okay, so what you see there on the screen is a Ferrari, right? And so here's how I think about it. A self-directed IRA is a vehicle, right? And so there's different vehicles that we can use to build wealth and invest and do different things. So the self-directed IRA is a vehicle. When I think of a self-directed IRA, here's what I want you to think about. I want you to think about this Ferrari. I want you to imagine this Ferrari every time I say self-directed IRA, because this is the vehicle that we're going to use to get where we want to go faster than we thought possible. All right. So the way this comes together is, I'll give you my technical definition of a self-directed IRA here in a second, but the way this comes together is that there's two pieces. And when you understand these two pieces, it all comes together seamlessly. So the first part is the vehicle, right? The vehicle is the Ferrari, but there's something that Ferrari needs to make it go, right? What does it need? It needs fuel, right? And not just any kind of fuel, because if you put regular fuel in that Ferrari, right, it's not going to make that beautiful Ferrari sound. So what you need is high octane fuel, right? You need the right kind of fuel to put in that vehicle. And when you have the right vehicle and you have the right fuel, right, that's where the magic happens. So if the self-directed IRA is the Ferrari, what's the fuel that goes in it? Those are the investments that you do, right? That's the real estate. That's the cryptocurrency. That's the precious metals. That's the notes and the mortgages. So you bring together the right fuel with the right vehicle, and you're going to get amazing results. Now, here's my technical definition of what a self-directed IRA is. Okay. A self-directed IRA is an IRS approved vehicle that allows you and I to get complete control over the money in our retirement account, invest in anything that we want, so long as it's allowed by the government, things like real estate, notes, mortgages, crypto, make money, profits, income, earnings, right? Make money and not pay taxes as we go. So our money will grow exponentially faster and larger. And in some cases, spend every dollar we make 100% tax-free. No income tax, no capital gains tax, no tax. All right. So I'll say that one more time. So a self-directed IRA is an IRS approved vehicle that allows you and I to get complete control over the money in our retirement account, invest in anything allowed by the government, like real estate, earn money and generate profits protected completely from taxes. So our money grows faster and larger, exponentially so, right, as a result of that. And in many cases, spend 100% of that money tax-free. Okay, so that's what a self-directed IRA is. So, so the next question is, well, why would you want to self-direct your IRA? Okay, so to build wealth, there's a few things that we need to protect ourselves from. All right. So the most obvious one when people think about retirement accounts is they think about taxes. And so what you see here are the tax rates, right? So taxes is certainly one that IRAs and 401ks offer a lot of protection on. But interestingly enough, they go way beyond just tax protection. So another interesting thing about retirement accounts is that they are judged, and I'm making a general statement here. It does depend on what kind of account you have, but generally what I can say is that your retirement accounts are judgment proof in all 50 states. So what does that mean to you? What that means is that if you ever declare bankruptcy personally, a judge cannot attach a judgment to any asset held inside your IRA. If you had a business that went bankrupt, court cannot attach a judgment to any asset held inside of your retirement account. If you were tried and convicted of a criminal offense, the court can take your life, but they can't take your IRA. Now that doesn't seem right, but that's the way it works. Okay. So that's really important. Probate. Okay. A lot of people don't think about estate planning and probate because they think about the multi-million-dollar limits that are the federal government level. However, states have their own limits, and those are remarkably low. And so what most people don't realize is that they have a probate problem. Okay. But here's a very simple solution to the probate problem, at least when it comes to your retirement accounts. Your retirement accounts bypass probate and go directly to the beneficiaries. So when you become a client and you understand how that works, no probate court is ever going to touch your retirement accounts, right? They just bypass that. It's the cheapest, easiest estate planning you can ever do. And there at the bottom, you'll see, to give you an example of what all those taxes add up to, if you earn about $100,000 in earned income this year with those various taxes, you could be paying about $42,200 a year in taxes. So, you know, that's an easy one to dollarize. The other two are not so easy to dollarize, but that gives you a feel, right? If you earn think about that for a second. If you earn $100,000 this year, the federal government, along with state agencies, local agencies, and by the way, you guys are in Texas, right? You don't have state income tax. You don't have to worry about that one, do you?
No, that's correct.
Do you have local tax?
Sales.
Okay, you have sales tax. Okay, so you guys don't have to worry about state or local. Maybe I should move to Texas. I should actually open an office there.
Our property taxes are really high though.
Okay, well, that's usually how it works, right? Because they got to fund the state somehow. And so, whoops, well, let me turn that off. Okay. So at any rate, you get a feel for what taxes look like, right? But here's the thing. What if I could give you a way that instead of paying $42,000 in taxes, you could actually keep the $42,000 in taxes? So I will show you how that works. Okay, so why self-direct your IRA? Everybody here has some level of interest in investing, and I'm sure we have different levels of experience here. So let me ask a question. All right. If I offered you an investment right now, and I said, the investment is $100,000. Your next question is, okay, well, what can I make on the investment? My answer is $100. For every $100,000 you invest, you'll make $100. Anybody want to make that investment? I see nothing but no's. Okay. I thought so. So why do I ask you that question? Because here's the thing. If you're not self-directing, most likely your money is in a retirement account sitting at a bank or brokerage, and they've bought a mutual fund. And most likely in those mutual funds, one of the companies that is held is a company called Tesla. Now, when I used to work on Wall Street, back in my Wall Street days, one of the ways that we valued stocks was by looking at what's called a PE ratio, a price earnings ratio. In other words, how much is an investor willing to pay for every dollar in earnings? Okay, so Tesla in December hit a PE ratio of 1,000. And that's exactly what that means. That means if you were to buy Tesla stock, you'd have to, for every $100,000 you invest, you could expect to earn $100. but nobody thinks about it that way. Nobody really understands this is actually what's going on in the market. And most people say, well, you know what? I didn't buy any Tesla. Well, if you own mutual funds, you probably own Tesla, right? Or they own an index, and guess what? That index owns Tesla. And the point is that, think about it, for the stock price of Tesla to go up, and so the only way somebody will make money in this scenario is that the stock price has to go up. So that means somebody else has to come along and be willing to pay basically $100,000 for $50 worth of earnings, right? Which would double the price of your stock. How many people are willing to do that if they really understood this, right? And so this is the challenge. And this is why you see the volatility in the stock market, because people don't know why things are going up. They don't know what they're buying, and they don't know why they go down. We have, by the way, none of us have any control over that, right? And so when you self-direct your IRA, one reason why people choose to self-direct their IRA is because they invest in things that they know and understand. That's a big thing. And they invest in things that avoid a lot of the uncertainty, right? So that's another protection. That's another reason why you invest, because you can look at the numbers, right? I mean, Jacob and I were talking about investments that he's doing. Well, he knows what he's doing. He understands what he's putting his money into. He understands, right, the transaction from beginning to end. That doesn't mean it's free of risk. What it means is he understands that. Most people don't understand the stock market, and that's why so many people get hurt. Okay, so here's a second reason why people self-direct their retirement account are hidden fees. So when I worked on Wall Street, we were really, really good at hiding fees. And the reason why the financial institutions hide fees is because they're very high. Now, it's interesting because when I ask clients or a potential client, and they see the fee schedule, which I'm going to show you here in a minute. What does it cost to have a self-direct IRA? That's a common question, so I'll answer that one. But when someone says, "Well, what are the fees for a self-direct IRA?" and I show them, I hear one of two things. So the first thing I hear is, "Wow, that's expensive," and the second thing I'll hear is, "Wow, that's cheap." Well, who's right? And by the way, why do you get such opposite ends of the spectrum when people answer that question? Well, here's why. Because it's all about perspective. So I literally have people who tell me, well, I don't pay anything for my investments or my retirement account. Well, and how in the world do those businesses operate and have those big, beautiful buildings in downtown Manhattan, right? You're paying something, you just don't know what you're paying. That's one reason why the ICI exists, right? So the ICI is the Investment Company Institute. They're a nonprofit financial research organization. And every year they publish the Investment Company Fact Book. And basically, as you can see right here, they just look at the investment industry and the finance industry, and they publish all kinds of interesting information on it. So here's basically what it says about fees, right? So this is what people, if you have money at a bank or a brokerage, this is what you could be paying. Okay, so these are averages that the ICI found when they looked across the industry. So that's an average fee there, right? And that's for a mutual fund. But then, right, what Wall Street has done is they said, well, we'll asset allocate all this stuff for you, and we'll base it on, your age and all these other things. Well, guess what? That's a separate fee right there. And then what happens is that, believe it or not, even on a big 401k plan with a huge company, there's a broker on that plan, right? There's a financial advisor who got that company to sign up with their company, and that broker gets a fee, right? And that's right there. So actually, the average person can be paying all three of those added together. So if you add that up, right, that's well over 2%, right? About 2.5% in fees. So one of the reasons why people self-direct is because they save a lot of money on fees. So the way I built our fee schedule, I actually put it so you could see it right here. So it's in dollars, but I also put it in a multiplier here for you. So if you look at this, for a $100,000 account, it's 95 basis points, right? Less than 1%. And as you grow your account and you have success with it, the fees go down. So take a look at this. 2%, 2.5% versus 1% or less, right? So that's another reason why people self-direct. Here's the big reason why people self-direct. Okay, I saved the best for last. The number one reason why, and Jacob, this goes to your question that you were asking, right? You said, well, what kind of returns can people expect? And I'm going to reframe that a little bit. I'm going to reframe it just slightly. I'm going to stick with the R word, but I'm going to reframe that word. I'm going to say, what kind of results can people expect?
Fair enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's the results. So this is and I'll show you actual results with 2 client case studies, but let me conceptually tell you the results that people can get or achieve with a self-directed account. So the first thing is that they preserve their nest egg. And one of the ways they preserve their nest egg is by getting out of the stock market and things that are volatile and going into things that they know and understand, things that are secured like real estate. We have a lot of clients buying actual real estate, right? So there's an actual asset there that can preserve the nest egg. The reason why preserving your nest egg is important is that when I work with clients, and Jacob's a client, so like Jacob has been through, we've had great conversations on the phone together, and he's seen some other things that I've shared with clients. And so he's heard me say this probably before, but when I start working with a client, when we do that at Specialized, most people don't have enough to step out of their day job, right? And they're not on track to step out of their day job, right? With what they're doing, which is why they're looking for a solution or an alternative. So here's the thing, to remedy that, we need to grow your nest egg, but we can't grow your nest egg unless we first preserve your nest egg. So we've got to preserve what you've already accumulated and then begin to grow it. And when you do that, really what we're looking for is to create an additional income for you, right? You create additional income. And when your income, right, your passive income from your account surpasses your earned income, meets or surpasses your earned income, it's your choice what you do from then on out, right? And the only way to accomplish those 3 things is to get control over your money. And that's the number one reason why people choose to self-direct. They choose to bet on themselves. They choose that, what they've been doing, if they see it not working for them, they need something different. And what they know is that it begins with getting control over their money and their life. So that is the number one thing and the number one reason why people self-direct. So let's talk about the solution. So you know what a self-directed IRA is. You have an idea why people self-direct and the benefits that you get from them. So here's the interesting thing. A lot of people ask me this question. They say, well, how come I haven't heard about this before? How come this isn't common knowledge? Well, it's interesting because, in fact, I've even had people ask me, hey, is this new, Edwin? No, it's not new at all. Actually, it's been around since 1974, believe it or not. The interesting thing is that some of the wealthiest individuals in the country, right, have known about this for decades. They've been doing it for decades. I'm sure everybody knows who Warren Buffett is. Warren Buffett talks about Roth IRAs, and he clicked too fast. And he talks about single family homes and real estate. And the reality is, when you bring those 2 things together, right, like I said, you can accomplish some pretty amazing things. So although this might be new to some of you, this is not new at all. Okay, this has been around for a long, long time. So why Specialized Trust Company? Well, what makes a self-directed IRA truly self-directed? It's the company that holds your account. Okay, so I'm going to show you how this works, right? So what makes a self-directed IRA a truly self-directed IRA? We do, right? It's the company that holds your account. Now, the other question that kind of goes, I'm going to answer 2 questions at the same time, right? Is it legal to invest or buy real estate inside your IRA, right? Is it legal? There's people who tell you it's not legal. I'm telling you it is legal. Well, should you just take my word for it? The answer to that is no, by the way. That's the correct answer to that question. So how do we know? How do we answer the questions, right? How do we know if it's really legal? Well, we have to go to our friends at the IRS. And by the way, when I use that word friends, I'm using it very loosely in this context, just so you know. So this is the IRS website. And you see right here, it says IRA FAQs regarding investments. Now, the IRS, right? So one of the questions is, what types of investments can I make with my IRA? Are there things that I'm not allowed to do? Yes, as a matter of fact, there are. Here's a list of some of them. But the IRS was kind enough to give us another example. And I have it right here for you. So let me kind of tell you what. So we'll just kind of go through this. I'll break this down for you. So here's what it says. It says IRA trustees are permitted to impose additional restrictions on investments. So let's stop there for a minute. What is an IRA trustee? An IRA trustee is the financial institution that holds your retirement account. So the bank, the brokerage, specialized trust, right? Whoever holds your hence the name specialized trust, right? Because we are a trust company and therefore we can hold IRAs. So IRA trustees are permitted to impose additional restrictions on investments. All right. So what does that mean? What does that second part mean? What that means is that when the government gave us the rule book, right, they said, here's the do's and don'ts, right? We can't go beyond, right, the rule book, because if we go beyond the rule book, that's called breaking the law, right? Can't break the law. But what they're saying is that just because we, the government, right, wrote the rules and allow all kinds of things, doesn't mean that a for-profit business has to allow you to do them, right? They're allowed to put restrictions on the things in the rule book that we created. So the rules might say you can do this, but a financial institution can take it down to this. Okay, that's what the first sentence says. So let's move on. It says, for example, because of administrative burdens, many IRA trustees do not permit IRA owners to invest IRA funds in real estate. But look at this last sentence. I underlined it for you. IRA law does not prohibit investing in real estate, but trustees are not required to offer real estate as an option. So I don't care who tells you it's illegal to do this. The IRS spells it out black and white on their website and says, actually, you can do this, right? And so they answered those two questions all at the same time. If you want to be able to buy real estate, if you want to be able to buy crypto, if you want to lend money from your retirement account on someone else's real estate project and share in the profits or get a fixed rate of return, or however you do that, you have to have a self-directed IRA custodian, because that's the custodian that will actually hold, record keep, and process your directions, right? You get to say what you want to invest in, and that's how it works. So specialized trust company, if you've never heard of us, we are highly regulated, right? We're regulated like any other, big company out there. We have to meet all the same capital requirements, have all the same bonds and insurance in place. We've got a ton of experience. You've heard about my experience. We have actually one of the most experienced leadership teams in the industry. When I set up this company, I recruited people that I met throughout my career to come into this business. This is a real positive these days, by the way. I actually added this recently because I don't know if you've had this experience, but I don't care what it is. I don't care if I'm dealing with a bank or any business. You can't talk to a real person hardly anymore, right? You try to find the phone number, you can't find it. And so you end up with some chat bot online. And it's not even a person on the chat, it's a chat bot. And they keep giving you the same regurgitated answers over and over and over again. That's not how it is a specialized trust company. Every single department is staffed by real human beings in the United States. And when you call us, we answer. And so you've got a team of real people that you actually work with. And our why, and I think I have this in here. Let me see here. Yeah. So this is the last thing I want to say about specialized trust company, but here's the reality of it. I've been blessed through self-directing and learning about this and learning really the principles and the tenets and the philosophy of self-directing. And I've applied it to all aspects of my life, from my personal health to my retirement account, to starting a business, to investing, to everything. And as a result of that, I've developed a life that I can truly say that I love my life. And I want my clients to love their life as much as I love mine. And although we've all heard the saying that money doesn't buy happiness, the truth is, it's really hard to have any peace or joy in your life if you're always stressed about money today or in the future, right? And so really what we're about is empowering people to be able to take control of their finances, give them the tools and the resources that they need to basically go out and create financial independence. And that's why I launched this company. So let me break this down. I'm going to break down, there's multiple accounts that you can self-direct. So this is another thing that comes up, right? So I'm going to give you two options. Option number one is that you can pay less taxes. Option number two, whoops, helps if I hit the right button. If I hit the right part on my trackpad, you can pay no taxes. So you can pay less taxes or you can pay no taxes. All right, so let me break these down for you. I want you to imagine for a minute, I'm going to give you a way, right? I'm going to give you a way that beginning this year, you can have a brand new conversation with the government. And here's how that conversation is going to go. Okay, so we're going to talk about less taxes first. So here's how that conversation can go. You're going to say to the government this year, listen, I'm going to earn income and you're going to want to tax me on all of it. But here's the deal I'm going to make you. If I don't spend it, you don't get to tax it. You don't get to touch it. Any money I don't spend, I'm going to put aside and I'm going to go invest it. And while that money is invested, it's going to generate profits, it's going to generate income, it's going to generate earnings, and you can't touch any of that either. As a result, I'm going to build, right, this pile of wealth, right? I'm going to exponentially compound my wealth because you guys aren't touching it anymore. And at some point in the future, I'm going to want to spend some of that money. So here's the deal I'll make you. In the future, when I go to spend some of that money, I'll let you tax me, but only on what I spend. And you can't charge me all the taxes you do now. You've got to get rid of a couple. Okay. So who would like to have that conversation with the government? Well, that's basically a traditional IRA or a tax deferred account. And that's exactly how it works. So in other words, when you make a contribution, which basically comes from your checking account or your savings account, i.e. your earned income, when you make a contribution to a traditional IRA, you deduct that money from your earned income. You just got a deduction. While that money is in the account invested and growing, you pay no taxes on any of the gains. In the future, this is the tax deferred part. When you take money out, that's called a distribution. When you take money out of the account, you pay taxes at that time, but not all the taxes you pay now. You pay federal, state, local, if you're subject to them. Being in Texas, you might want to stay in Texas because then you only pay federal. But no Social Security tax, no Medicare tax, right? Those go away. So that's how a traditional IRA works. Okay, or a tax deferred account. Okay, option number two, you can pay no taxes. So how does that work? Okay, so let's go back to the conversation with the government. I'm going to give you a, imagine this for a second. Imagine this, picture this in your mind. I'm going to give you a way that you can have a conversation with the government starting this year. And here's how that conversation is going to go. It's going to be a little different. Here's how it's going to go. Here's the deal. I'm going to earn income this year and you're going to want to tax me on all of it. And I'm going to let you. But here's the deal. Anything I don't spend, I'm going to set aside. And I'm going to set that aside and I'm going to go invest it. And when I invest it, it's going to generate income, earnings, and profits. And you can't touch any of that. At some point in the future, right? So my money is going to grow exponentially faster and larger as a result. At some point in the future, I'm going to want to spend some of that money. And guess what? You can't tax me then either. No income tax, no capital gains tax, no tax. If I take it out of the account, I spend 100% of it. You don't get to touch it. Eventually, right? Who lives longer, husbands or wives? Wives live longer. Everybody said wives. Is there anybody who debates that? No, everybody agrees with that statement. Okay, so what you basically just told me is the wives are killing off the husbands. Statistically, that's a true statement. All right, which is, by the way, I'm single. So, but congratulations to all you married guys out there. But yeah, seriously. So what happens? So let's just assume for a second I'm actually married again, okay? Because I'd actually like that to happen. But so let's just assume that happens. So I pass away. Now what happens with it? Guess what? It goes to my wife. And the conversation with the government continues, because guess what? She gets to spend all that money tax-free over her lifetime. You don't get to touch it then either. What happens when she passes? Well, guess what? It goes to our kids. And the conversation continues, because guess what? You don't get to tax them either. Okay, that's what a Roth does. That's exactly what a Roth is. A Roth, we basically don't ask for a tax deduction, right? It's money in our account. We've already paid taxes on it. We contribute it to a Roth account. And now from that point forward, every dollar we earn and from investing is 100% tax-free for basically the rest of our lives. It's the only legal way I know how to go from forever taxed to never taxed. That's what a Roth IRA does for you. Okay. So if you do not have, go ahead.
So if I'm investing in my Roth IRA, I'm going to pay my taxes up front.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. That's exactly right. So forever taxed and never taxed. If you don't have a Roth strategy, you should have one. Again, that's one of the things that we help people with. So we can always talk about that later too. Okay. So what accounts can you self-direct? Well, first of all, the two most common ones that people think of are the traditional and Roths. And I just broke down how those work for you. Okay. There's actually many more accounts than that. There's also the 401k or the solo 401k. There's health savings accounts, education savings accounts, and actually many more accounts. And the tax benefits use like one, basically I just explained the tax benefits and how they work, tax deferred versus tax free, right? So there's multiple accounts that are like that. So using a Roth or a Roth type account or a tax-free type of account, you can make money and it's 100% tax-free in the future. Okay. And that's how that works. So let me give you two case studies and then we're going to wrap this up. So a lot of times, and you know, one of the things that's my favorite things to do, Jacob and I got to talk a little bit one-on-one, right? We've had some one-on-one conversations, and it's my favorite thing to do because when I get to work with clients on a one-on-one basis, it's just amazing how you can shift things so fast for them. So there's two case studies here. The first one you can see is Rick from the New England area. So I'm going to show you Rick and how he basically used self-directing to improve his financial position in 90 days from establishing his account. Okay. You'll notice Rick is 58. He's still working. He's not spending money from his retirement account yet, but yet self-directing helped him solve a significant financial issue immediately. The second case study is going to be a longer term case study. What happens over a longer period of time? So this happened in 90 days, but what happens beyond 90 days, right? What can happen? So that's what these two case studies are about. So I think it's a good perspective of now and later. So a little bit of background on Rick. Rick, at the time that Rick became a client, he is 58 years young. I say young now because, well, I'm younger than Rick, but I'm in the same decade there. So Rick is a 58-year young computer programmer, and he makes about $105,000 a year. Okay, so that, again, right, that gives you a little bit of, what is Rick struggling with? So now this is what comes out from this conversation I had with him. So here's the first thing. He's got $71,000 in a retirement account. And when I talked to him, I said, you know, what's your most pressing challenge? What's your biggest problem right now? Like, what are you trying to solve? Yep. And this is what he told me. He says debt payments are creating too much month at the end of his paycheck. In other words, he's negative cash flow every month. All right. His credit card bills, car payment, right? Different things, right? The bills are too high. His income's too low. He's not even breaking even. He's negative every single month. So that's where he said, right, is there a self-directed solution for me? Can self-directing somehow, help me with this. Another thing that he brought up was he was newer to real estate investing. So he was just getting started as in wholesaling and rehabbing. And he was having some challenges there with his hard money loans, which I think I'll touch on here in a second. So that gives you a little bit of background on, yeah, right there. So one of the challenges that Rick was having was, he's trying to build his real estate investment business, and the challenge he was having was twofold. One is because of his lower credit score, because of the debt, he was getting higher quotes from hard money lenders, right? Higher interest rates and points. But the other challenging thing for him is that the terms weren't very good, right? And so he didn't like the terms, and he didn't like the cost of money. So those were the challenges. Okay, here are my challenges, right? Are there solutions for this? So what I did was I looked at Rick's debts and I said, okay, let's break this down. So he's got a car payment that's $451 a month, and it's got a $13,000 balance on it. All right. His credit cards, he's paying $503 a month. That's the minimum payment, right? With a $9,000 balance at 21% interest. So he said, and that's the problem, right? And he's negative cash flow. So if you look at this, he's spending $954 a month, so close to $1,000 on a $22,000 balance. The car payment will eventually go away, but those credit cards at the minimum payment are never going to go away, right? So that was the problem with the debt, and that was impacting the hard money loans. So we decided to tackle that first. So these are the solutions that we implemented right out of the gate for him, because like what's most pressing is right now, right? If you can't pay the bills this month, that's stressful. We got to solve that problem first. We got to figure out a solution to that. So the first thing that we did, okay, and this is what I told him. I said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to set up a Roth Solo K. All right, Roth. So if you're familiar with 401k, a Solo K is for you as an investor or a business owner, whereas like 401ks, right? People think about for big companies. This is for you and your own personal company. A Solo K is, and that can be Roth or it can be traditional. We actually set them up with both buckets, traditionally and Roth. So you get both tax deferred and tax free in the same plan. It's kind of cool. So set up a Roth Solo K. Why did we do that? Because the number one issue that Rick had was his pressing debt. He was negative cash flow every month, and it was killing him with the hard money lenders. So here's what happened. So the 401k, by the way, Solo K, is the only account the government allows you and I to borrow from personally. We cannot borrow from our IRAs. That's prohibited, but we are permitted to borrow from our 401k accounts. So he had money in a traditional IRA somewhere else in a bank or brokerage. We transferred that into his Solo K that we set up for his real estate business. The reason why we did that, there's multiple reasons, but one of them is right here. We structured a personal loan, or he really structured it. So here's what happened. You'll see number one, right? His credit card interest rate was 21% basically. And you can see here, I say we took it to 0, but I also have here 6.25. So how does that work? Well, when you borrow money from your 401k, there is an interest rate, and the interest rate is a market rate of interest set by the administrator. So at the time Rick took out this loan, and by the way, that's defined as prime plus 2. Prime plus 2 is how we define the interest rate. So at the time that Rick executed this loan, the interest rate was 6.25%. So that is actually the interest being charged on the loan. The reason why I call it 0% is because Rick borrowed the money from his own account. So who is he paying the interest to? He's paying it to his own account. It's all his money. He's moving money from one pocket to another. That's all he's doing. So he basically has a 0 cost of capital. That loan, by the way, is a fully amortized 5-year loan. In 5 years, if all he does is make that minimum payment, it will be gone in 5 years. So those are two big benefits to the 401k loan. Here's another benefit. Look at this. His monthly cash flow on the car and the the credit cards went from $954 a month. His 401k loan payment every month was $447. He freed up $547 a month. Within 60 days of doing this, he went from negative cash flow to positive cash flow. He went from never paying off the credit cards to paying them off in 5 years or less. Third benefit, forced savings, $3,840. What is that about? Let me explain. When people get into financial problems, oftentimes what they'll do is they'll just take a distribution from their retirement account, right? If they lose a job and they have to pay the bills. And what happens? They pay taxes and they pay penalties on the money they take out of their account because they're not, of age yet. And then they can never put it back in the account. And so there's a huge opportunity cost here. But by contrast, what did Rick do? Rick didn't take a distribution. Rick took a loan, and there's interest on that loan. $3,840 is the amount of interest he paid back to his own account. So instead of depleting his account, remember what we said? We've got to preserve our nest egg. If somebody takes money out because of a financial emergency, right? They're not preserving their nest egg. If they're not preserving their nest egg, they can't grow their nest egg. And now we've got a massive problem. So we solve these problems right here, because what you see here is we preserved Rick's nest egg, right? This is the concept. This is the concept in action. We preserve his nest egg so that way we can grow his nest egg. He's contributing to his account via interest payments, $3,840 over the course of 5 years. So he preserved his nest egg. He even grew it a bit. The opportunity cost is protected because the money gets to all go back in the account. And oh, by the way, number 5 that you see on the screen, this is cool. This is really cool. This happens for clients all the time. 401k loans are not reportable loans. In other words, the only people that know that you have a 401k loan is you and me. And because of our privacy policy, because we're a licensed financial institution, I can't tell anybody. So what that means is Rick paid off the credit cards. He paid off the car, and now his debt utilization came into line. So his credit score went up 100 points after paying those 2 bills off. No new debt showed up on the credit report. How cool is that, right? All of that within 60 days. Now, this is a challenge. Like I said, when you look at that first page where I showed you what his challenges are, they're all current problems. And most people say, well, how's self-directing going to help him? Well, I just showed you. And that's why I say, like, self-directing is so powerful. It goes beyond just future income. I mean, there's so many great, amazing things we can do with this. Okay, so the last thing I'll say about Rick here, and then we'll move on to Gary. So we converted $500 from his traditional bucket under his 401k to his Roth bucket under his 401k. Why? Because he's going to wholesale in the Roth bucket, right? So he doesn't have to pay taxes in the future, and he doesn't need a lot of cash to do that deal. So I'm not going to go into more detail about it than that. If you guys have questions about it, feel free to ask. But again, that's a Roth strategy. That's why I say if you don't have Roth strategies, if you don't have a Roth account of some kind, I would suggest putting that on your list to look into that, because it's a super valuable thing. And so that was the end of Rick's short story, right? The first 60 to 90 days, he went from negative cash flow to positive cash flow and a higher credit score. And it was with very little effort, right? I mean, he didn't, it just really wasn't all that much work. Okay, so let me switch gears a little bit. What if you would have learned about this 10 years ago, right? And that's an interesting question, because when I share this information, often people say, I wish I would have heard about this 10 years ago. Well, be thankful you're hearing about it today. But the question is, what if you learned about this 10 years ago? What if we go back in time a little bit? So I'm going to introduce you to somebody named Gary from Ohio. Let me give you a little background on Gary. By the way, this is just water right here that I'm drinking. We have allergies up here in Ohio. I don't know if you have those in Texas, but we have them up here in Ohio. So
no judgment, Edwin. You drink whatever you're drinking.
Well, you know what? If this was something else, this would be a way more colorful presentation right now, I could assure you.
Don't you tempt us.
So, okay, so Gary, so he's 53-year-old attorney. So by the way, Gary's story of self-directing starts back in 2004. All right, so Gary was a 53-year-old attorney in 2004 Let me give you a little bit of background on Gary. He has a wife, 2 kids, a mortgage, and car payments. Sounds pretty typical, right? Makes between 100 and 200K a year as an attorney. Again, that's pretty typical. How much do you think Gary has saved for retirement? At 53 years old, how much does Gary have in retirement accounts?
25.
Okay, that's a good guess. Any other guesses? Here's the answer.
He has at least 100,000.
At least 100,000. Okay, so those are both good guesses. The answer is 0. He's got $0, 0 retirement accounts in 2004. And so here's what Gary realized. Gary realized that with no wealth, right, with no nest egg, with no way to generate income, he's going to be working until the day he died. And so he started looking for solutions. And of course, he went to the financial advisors and the banks and the brokerages. And what did they tell him? You've waited too long. You don't make enough. You can't throw enough money at this. We can't tell you that you can ever stop working, because that's how the traditional financial world works. And by the way, what they told him was true in their world. That doesn't mean it's true. It doesn't mean that it's true, but it's true for them. That's the best way I can say that. Given what they know and given the things that they have access to, that would be a true statement for them. They were telling him the truth in their world, but that's not the whole world. So what happened was Gary found out about self-directing, much like this, right? He went to learn about real estate investing because he says, well, I got to figure something out. So he went to learn a little bit about real estate investing. And just when he got into real estate investing, guess what happens? Then he hears about this thing called a self-directed IRA. So Gary was maybe like some of the people listening right now, right? Back in 2004. So long story short was Gary decided, okay, I'm going to do this. Like I'm serious. I want to, get out of I don't want to have to work the rest of my life. I don't want to work until the day I die. So basically what we did was, right, Gary needed to set up a plan. So here was his concept. We talked through this, right? And so here's the plan. And we, by the way, we help clients create plans and work through all these kinds of things. So what Gary decided was, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to set up a Roth and I'm going to buy income property, rental properties, single family homes in that Roth. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because I don't need to make all the money I make now. Because let's say I make less than I make now. If I don't have to pay any taxes, all the income comes out tax-free, then I can make less than what I make now because I pay so much in taxes, right? I'm paying a lot of money in taxes. So if the taxes go away, I can make something down here, but have the same lifestyle. I have the same spending power. So he said, Roth IRA, that's the way I'm going to go. And I'm going to buy real estate in the Roth. And then I'll get this tax-free income when I'm ready to turn it on and take it. So back in 2004, he made a $4,000 contribution to his Roth IRA. By the way, he made a $4,000 contribution because back in 2004, that's all you can put in. Contribution limits are higher than that now, so you can actually put more in now. But that's where he started. Okay, so what next? Buy rental properties, right? So we decided on the vehicle. Now we got to put the fuel, right? We got to get that high octane fuel in the Ferrari. So what was the high octane fuel going to be? Rental properties, because they spin off predictable, consistent income every single month. And that's what he wanted to replace, was his monthly earned income with monthly passive income, monthly passive tax-free income. Except there's a problem. Does anybody see the problem here? 4,000 in a Roth. What's the problem?
Buying it with 4,000 and qualifying for non-recourse loans.
Okay, so Jacob obviously has spent some time with me. So the problem is, well, how do you build a rental portfolio with $4,000? And the answer is you borrow it. So this is a little known secret. And I say it's a secret only because people don't know about it, but it's actually in the rules and the regs. So it's not that big a secret. but there's a rule, but basically here's how it works. The government basically says, if you don't have enough cash in your retirement account to do an investment, or you just don't want to use your own cash, you don't have to. Your retirement account is allowed to borrow it. That is a legal backdoor to the contribution limit. And by the way, leverage, if it's something you're comfortable with and you understand, can be an extremely powerful tool in a retirement account. And I'm going to show you why, because actually Gary's going to show you why that is. I'm not going to show you. So what Gary did was he borrowed it from non-recourse private lenders. Now, because of, I'm not going to go into non-recourse and all the details on this. Again, I'm happy to answer questions. We teach classes on this kind of stuff, but you basically Gary borrowed money, right? So his $4,000 became kind of down payment money, if you will, and then he borrowed the rest. Okay, so that was year one. So that was the first 12 months. Set up the account, get some money in there, identify the plan, right? The investment, the fuel, rental properties, figured out we need to borrow money because you don't have enough cash in your account to buy property. So borrow it, right? So go out, start fundraising, doing that kind of thing. Okay, so now year two, what happens? So 2 years later, it says year two, it should be basically 2 years later, it's about 2 years later. In 2006, we froze contributions to the Roth IRA and set up a Roth Solo K. The reason why we didn't do that initially is the Roth Solo K was not introduced until 2006. We didn't know that was going to happen. All right, Gary didn't know that was going to happen. That was kind of one of those unexpected gifts. But what that enabled him to do was make larger contributions to that account. So that was one benefit. He could put more money in it. There's several other benefits. We talked about loans from 401ks. That's another benefit, right? You can access your money right now. So what next? Buy more rental properties. How? Borrowed more money, right? So he just borrowed inside the Roth Solo 401k. So that's basically that's what happened. So remember, you started in 2004, we transitioned plans in 2006, but the same core investment strategy, right? The goal was always the same. We established that correctly from the beginning. And so he knew what he needed to do, and he just started going out and doing it. Again, I'm not going to get into that. That's kind of a detail that we won't get into tonight, but it is important. So we could talk about it later if you want to. So how did it work out for Gary? So let me give you kind of let me kind of give you the rundown of this. So this was 2004. In January 2015, so for some reason, Gary likes to punish me because he likes to visit me in like January or February. And that's, by the way, the coldest, iciest, ugliest time of year where he lives. And so at any rate, but he likes to get together for a beer. And so Gary and I get together for a beer once in a while and have drinks, and we catch up and I check in on him. And so in January 2015, his monthly distribution that month was $7,000. That was 100% tax-free, right? No income tax, no capital gains, no tax. By January 2015, he had effectively replaced his earned income, right? But there's more. Because one of the things that Gary does is that he uses a strategy that we teach called the accelerated leveraging strategy. So he would not take any income from a property until the property was completely paid off. So in other words, all excess cash flow, if there's a mortgage outstanding, goes right back on the mortgage to accelerate the payoff. And when you have a portfolio, right, you can actually really accelerate payoff. This is one of the reasons why I said just a minute ago, leverage can be super powerful tool inside of a retirement account. Because every month the property pays off, that means every month Gary gets a raise. So what did his monthly distribution look like in January of 2018 when effectively all those properties paid off? In 2018, his monthly distribution was over $20,000 a month, 100% tax-free. Okay, that's over $240,000 a year income tax-free. Gary lives a better life in retirement than he did when he was working. Most people would tell you that's impossible. It's not if you have the right vehicle and you have the right fuel and you have the right plan that makes those two things work for you. That's what's possible. Okay. So when we talk about what kind of results can you expect, that's the self-directed part, right? It varies. But what I'm sharing with you here tonight are two results that clients got by implementing these self-directed solutions. So what's your next step? Well, it's real simple. I've got a new book out, the Field Guide to Financial Freedom, and we do strategy sessions. That's usually the best thing. That's actually the most important thing we do. We do strategy sessions one-on-one. And that's where you talk to a self-directed specialist. They'll answer all your questions. They'll go over your situation, right? And they'll really help you strategize. Like, what do you have? What can you do? What are the options? Like all that kind of really good stuff. Anyway, it's 100% free, doesn't cost you anything. And so if that is something you would like to take advantage of, get my book and set up a strategy session. All you do is right there at the bottom, I put somebody in here. In fact, Jacob works with Mike on my team. So I'm going to keep it simple and just keep everybody aligned here in this group and keep them pointed at Mike. So Mike Liello, you can email him and just say, hey, Mike, I heard Edwin on the webinar with Jacob, and I'd love to get the free book and set up a strategy session. And there you go. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to you, Jacob.
Beautiful. Thank you too. You gave us an enormous amount of information. I think overall, at least we kind of have a rough idea that there's a lot of tools that we really don't understand that we could probably take advantage of. Cliff notes for everybody here is we have a lot of options and different ways that we can manipulate some of these retirement accounts to better benefit us. I guess one thing that I'd like to do real quick is if we have any real quick questions for about the next 5-10 minutes, if anybody had something they wanted to ask, or if they just wanted to go ahead and reach out to you. You in the pink.
Purple. Okay. Case study number 2. We can do that now. We don't have to wait to be 53.
To do which part of it? No, you can. Yeah, you can start it right now. To start, yeah, you can.
We can do like a 10-year plan, like right now.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Now, when I say that, so let me clarify a couple of things. So this is where the strategy sessions come in super helpful, because I want to be clear. And if you tell me that you want to basically create a tax-free income stream, then the answer is, okay, yes, that's the goal, right? That's the plan. We're going to help you create that. Within that, there can be numerous details, but what I'll generally say is, yeah, if you say, because the reason why I'm bringing this up is because you don't look 53, okay? So when you say you want to spend the money, so when you say, do you want to do this now? Do you want to start spending the money tax-free in 10 years? Is that what you're saying?
I want to retire early.
You want to retire early. Okay. Well, yeah. So that's really actually a great topic for the strategy session, because to answer it. So my belief is that's possible. Okay. And though I will say this, there's no cookie cutter approach to this stuff. Mm-hmm. So you notice that Rick and Gary were two completely different people in two completely different situations, two completely different set of goals, right? That's where the strategy session comes in, because without having those individual conversations and really understanding, right, the variables, it's impossible for somebody to give somebody a real plan that you can execute, because it's not unique to you. It doesn't take into account anything that's unique about your life and what's going on. So yes, I will say it's definitely possible. And the best way to figure out what that plan could look like would be the strategy session to go through that with you. Yeah.
I have another question. You mentioned that we can invest in single family homes. Is it only single family, or real estate in general? Is it 1 to 4 unit? Is it like, what are the boundaries there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So you can invest in single family homes. You can invest in commercial properties, retail properties. You can buy multiplexes. You can buy apartments. You can buy vacant land. You can buy real estate in Texas. You can buy it in Ohio. You could buy it in Mexico. In fact, you could buy real estate virtually anywhere in the world.
Okay.
So the only restriction on real estate is that you're not allowed to invest, and it's not real estate, it's any investment. You're not allowed to invest in certain nations specifically that have been deemed terrorist states by the United States government. So as long as you're not buying real estate in Iran, I know you might want to pick up some oil
Fair.
wells there or something. You can't do that. But anything outside of that, right? Just keep Iran off your list and you're good to go.
Okay.
I like it. Does anybody else have any questions right now? No, it doesn't look like it.
All right.
The only other one I was going to bring up here, just because it's something that I'm kind of looking at too, a little bit self-serving, is it looks like you can also use this as an investment vehicle to aggregate funds to go after larger properties. It doesn't have to be just solo.
Correct. So we have numerous clients that I work with, and they're doing larger, typically a syndication type of transaction where they're investing in an apartment complex. And so they're bringing in multiple investors, right? And so, yeah, that's another way to do it. In fact, that's one of the great things about self-directing is that you can be as involved, or I like to say as active or passive in the process as you want, as long as we're doing it according to the rules. But a lot of people don't want to be actively involved. So one of the ways that, in fact, I'd probably say and this is just a ballpark, I've never actually measured this, but I'd say probably half the investments that are done in self-directed accounts that specialize are people actively putting together the transaction and doing it themselves. The other half are people who are not putting the transaction together themselves. They aren't spending any time on it at all. They're participating with another investor who's actually doing all the work, right? And so that's a great way to grow a self-directed account because it's completely hands-off and it's passive for you and you're building wealth, but you're not having to do all the work. So yeah, we see that quite a bit.
All right. Just wanted to bring up there just because it seemed like some of the limitation might have been like a solo type thing.
Yeah, no, not at all. I mean, you can, there's a lot of different like investment structures, deal structures, there's just so many possibilities with this. I mean, and I've seen so many of them and I've helped people, put together all kinds of things. And so it's pretty remarkable what you can accomplish once you start going down the path. Perfect.
Well, I think that's pretty much everything, unless anybody has any parting shots here. We'll let you get out of here, and thank you so much for coming out and giving us.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. Appreciate it. And yeah, any help we can be, you just let us know. Jacob, always a pleasure, my friend.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
All right.
You take care.
You too.